Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Well, thank you, John. September 20th. The end of the world as we know it.
Well done. Well done.
Maybe not quite. In some camps, it may very well be. Pretty well, it's still to some degree speculation, but it's almost guaranteed. Apparently, Trudeau is going to visit the Governor General on Sunday. The writ will be dropped, and the election will be September 20th. What's your opinion here, folks? We're going to have 4 or 5 years of the same kind of stuff. One of the things I find really interesting, fascinating, in fact, is that Trudeau apparently is going to campaign, and what a great job he has done with the vaccine rollout. How short our memories are, right? I mean, for months we had almost no vaccines here. But this is, I'm declaring once again, this is a vaccine-free district here, okay? No discussion of vaccine. However, you can certainly discuss whether you think the Prime Minister, his record concerning anything deserves re-election, as apparently all the polls seem to think it's a shoo-in. So if you've got any thoughts on that, John, once again, how do people get in touch with us?
All right. Well, if you're following on Facebook, please share to your timeline so that other people know that Lowell Green is on the air and doing his thing. We appreciate that very, very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I must say, John, that yesterday a lot of people did share, and as a consequence, the viewership went way up, almost doubled.
It's so important. I mean, you and I cannot advertise, obviously, on a TV station or billboard or OC Transpo.
I don't get any government grants, folks. I don't get $1.2 billion from the government or $600 million from the government. I don't get any grants. So all I'm relying upon you to give me a boost by sharing.
So that's the ask. If you're watching on Facebook, please. And now it's even easier. If you can't be on Lowell's friends list because he's maxed out, you can follow Lowell. Go to facebook.com/the Lowell Green. Again, thank you for the share. So to get in touch with the show, we're monitoring Facebook. We're on Twitch. We are on YouTube as well. Connect with all those. Go to blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. And the phone number for your calls and your texts, 613-413-2217.
Now, one of the issues that probably will not come up during this election campaign, although I'm going to tell you, if Aaron O'Toole is smart, he'll certainly bring it up. But the mainstream media, as usual, there's no way they want O'Toole to win, so they'll probably ignore it. But I'm going to deal with this now. I'm going to alert you to something that I think looms very close on the horizon, and that is a home equity tax.
Okay.
Now, some of you, I'll explain exactly what I'm talking about here, and some of you people say, well, what's he talking about that for? Well, I'm going to tell you right now that Trudeau is very seriously contemplating just such a tax. In other words, when you sell your home, you will be taxed on the profit, something that's never happened in this country before. And just to show you how serious Trudeau is about this, he has given, and has given actually, Central Mortgage and Housing $250,000, $250,000, to examine exactly how a home equity tax would work and what rate should be charged. Now, as you know, for some of you people, you may not be aware of this. Most of you are. Certainly if you own your home, you know. When you sell your principal residence today, there is no tax on the proceeds, no tax on any profit that you may have enjoyed. But during the past few years, as we all know, the value of most homes has really shot up, particularly in the past couple of years. This has Trudeau thinking very seriously about imposing some sort of home equity tax. Now, as I say, he's not going to admit this during this campaign. But I just hope that people out there are alert to this. I hope that O'Toole raises this. The fact that he's given $250,000 for a study of a home equity tax, I mean, why else would he do this if he's not thinking about it, right? So what's your view here? How would you feel about that? As I say, he won't be talking about this during the election campaign, but make no mistake, Taxing us on any profits or deemed profits from selling your home would be a gold mine for this government. And I mean, let's face it, this government is desperate for money. We are what, about 1.2, $1.3 trillion in debt? Going to add about $400 billion to debt this year. This, if he imposed a home equity tax, even if it was a rather small amount, it would be a gold mine. I mean, let's face it, home equity, the equity in homes out there in Canada is in the trillions of dollars. No question about it. So I raise this. The alarm bells went off for me when I saw the $250,000 going to Central Mortgage and Housing for a study of this. This means, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? As I say, there's no question that the value of homes has increased greatly. Now, one of the problems of imposing any kind of home equity tax is exactly how do you determine the profit? Let me explain. When Debbie and I sold our cottage several years ago, it was not our principal residence, so we had to pay capital gains tax on it, considerable amount of tax, okay? The problem here is that we had put all kinds of work ourselves. My brother and I built a huge deck, redid the kitchen, we did a brand new roof and so forth, but we never kept any receipts for any of that. How do you keep receipts for work you and your family does? So as a consequence, the government said, no, you bought this property for this price, you sold it for this, your profit is the difference. Yeah, but we invested all of this money, all of this effort in. Doesn't matter unless you have receipts to prove that you spent it. So this means essentially, if you're a homeowner and they impose a home equity tax, you pretty well have to become an accountant. Keep track of everything you do. How you keep track of work you do yourself, I have no idea. So look out, folks. And I'll tell you right now, unless O'Toole raises this issue, unless O'Toole is smart enough to raise this issue and start alerting us to this very real possibility, you can be sure that the mainstream media is not going to pick up on this. There's no way that the mainstream media wants Aaron O'Toole to win. They just don't. For a number of reasons. I mean, let's face it. I mean, the CBC gets $1.2 or $3 billion, and Trudeau has already promised he's going to give another $300 million. So the CBC sure as hell doesn't want O'Toole to come in. O'Toole says he's going to cancel everything, or pretty well defund all of the CBC except CBC Radio. Newspapers, $600 million. Actually, we're learning that newspapers, magazines have received millions of other dollars from the Trudeau government. So you can be sure that none of them want O'Toole to win either. So I just throw that out. But what I anticipate is that there's going to be a propaganda campaign beginning probably pretty soon. And it's going to try to soften us up. It's going to talk about the huge profits that we homeowners have earned, et cetera, and they won't talk about a tax. They won't do that, but they'll talk about the huge profits, et cetera, and then there'll be stories about that. And it may very well be that Trudeau will point to what they do in the United States. In the United, and I have some other topics here, but I just want to, so that you people, at least those people who listen and watch this show, will know what's going on. All right. So in all probability, they're going to raise the United States because in the United States, there is a home equity tax. Any profit deemed to be over $250,000 in the United States, you got to pay tax on it. But big difference in the United States. And let me tell you what it is. In the United States, all of the mortgage interest that you pay is fully tax deductible. Did you know that? Up to $1 million on first and second mortgages. All of the interest, and let's face it, I mean, most of you people know that in the early years of a mortgage, almost all of the mortgage payment is interest. In the United States, on first and second mortgages for homes, these are for homeowners, all interest is fully tax deductible. So yeah, when you sell your home in the United States, if you make a profit of over $250,000, you probably will be dinged for some home equity tax. So I just want to point this all out so that you're aware of what's going on. John, we have some text coming in, or what are people saying here?
Yep. Again, we appreciate you sharing the video on your Facebook feeds. The number here, 613-413-2217. I know you've got other topics to get to. But quickly, some of the comments so far. Ann says, looks like the election will be short and not so sweet. Let's hope the Trudeau faithful are busy that day. Lori says, glad you brought this up, Lowell. Wake up, people. Murray says, not all cities in Canada have housing gone up. That's true. Ottawa.
Wait a minute, hold on. Let me just address that. It doesn't matter. What I am saying is that a home equity tax would put a tax on any homes that have increased in value. Very clearly, if your home is not increased in value, then there would be no tax. But the great overwhelming majority of homes in this country have increased, and particularly in major cities, have increased rather dramatically. So the amount of tax would be very high. It would be an absolute gold mine for governments. So you can be damn sure they're looking at, hey, folks, you can poo-poo it all you want, but let me ask you this. If Trudeau's not serious, why would he give $250,000 for a study of how this would work? I'd like some of you liberals to address that. More text. Yes, John.
Don't want any home equity tax or a wealth on inheritance tax. They can just bugger off, says Anne. Joshua says, as the late comedian John Morgan once said, there are two things in life that are certain, death and taxes. In Canada, we've combined the two, death from taxes. Terry says, home equity is a shameful cash grab on your principal residence. And Nina says, I believe Pierre Poilievre has an ongoing ad regarding home equity tax. It's actually a very good ad.
Yeah, Pierre Poilievre has been trying to alert us to this. But as I say, the thing that really started to ring my bells, my alarm bells, was this $250,000 grant to Central Mortgage to do a study of this. This means that they're very serious about it. And I repeat, you're not going to hear him talking about any increase in tax during the campaign. But it's out there, folks. So my question to you is this. As you're contemplating who you're going to vote for here, what is your opinion? Would you support any kind of home equity tax? Now, let me point something out. There are far more non-homeowners in this country than there are homeowners. So you can be very sure that non-homeowners would support such a tax because the government would say, listen, if we have a home equity tax, it's only going to hit, these people didn't work for this increase in value in their home. It's just pure luck, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And with all of the money that we get, we'll give you more social programs. We can increase your welfare. We can increase whatever the hell it is. That'll be the message. So there are far more renters in this country, folks, non-homeowners, than there are homeowners. So if you're a homeowner, hey, get the old ears up there, folks, because unless there's some really strong opposition here, it's going to happen. Yes, John, more texts.
Murray says oil and coal mining in Alberta and Saskatchewan are going to have a hard time getting the money back from their investments. Valdez, sorry, did you want in there?
No, not at all. I don't understand that, but go ahead.
But there you go. I just read them. Valdez says they will find any way they can to take our money. Another tax, so much for retirement or leaving the farm to the kids. All the Liberals do is take. Dean says Trudeau hates to see any Canadians prosper and make money except for his family and his Laurentian elite buddies.
On a different topic.
Yep.
And by the way, we still would love to hear from you on this. This is my last alert. My job here, I think, is to alert the public to what I think are going to be some problems here, so that at least you're aware of it and you can do a little look. You can have a look at it yourself and decide whether you agree or not, or whether you're concerned or not. But today, unfortunately, most segments of the mainstream media are not doing their job. So I'm from the old school, and I really, honestly, God, I feel I have a responsibility. As long as I'm here with the public forum, I feel I have a responsibility, and this is one of them. I think there's a problem here, and I just think that we'd better be aware of it. Now, we're getting, on another topic, we're getting overwhelming support for O'Toole's call for a Canadian boycott of the Olympic Games. We got into this yesterday, and we had a lot of response, and we're still getting response, and almost all of it is, yes, boycott the Games. But interestingly enough, I don't see any media coverage of this. There was a brief story at first. O'Toole said that he felt that China was becoming too dangerous for Canadians, and thus we should boycott the Games. But I haven't seen anything since. We have, as I say, overwhelming response on this program. People are very concerned. They're very adamant, boycott the games. Yes, it's become too dangerous. And yet the mainstream media, surprise, surprise, is not picking this up. And I mean, let's be very honest. I know sometimes I hit this too much, but they don't want O'Toole to win. And on this one, O'Toole looks like maybe he has struck a sensitive chord here. And people are beginning to, hey, wait a minute, maybe this guy's got a good point here. And the media doesn't want that to happen. So just if you have seen any cover, I haven't seen any coverage of O'Toole's statement. It would seem to me when the leader of the opposition, an opposition party, which during the last election got more popular votes, by the way, than the Liberals, you would think if the leader of that opposition party makes a statement of that nature, that it would be newsworthy. I mean, the governor of New York, he has to resign. His front page is screaming headlines at everywhere and everywhere. O'Toole says we should boycott the games. It's too dangerous in China, and the media just totally ignores it. So if you've got any thoughts on that, folks, give us a call. John, once again, the numbers to call and how they can get through to Texas here.
Yep, as a matter of fact, we had a call coming through right now. They're on hold for you right now, but the number is 613-413-2217. If you're watching on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, the number is right there on your screen. Again, you can now get to Lowell on Facebook by going to facebook.com/TheLowellGreen.
How do they, John? I'm a little confused. I'm up to the max on friends, 5,000. Yep. But you say now you can become a follower. How do you do that? If you're on Facebook, just a regular user of Facebook, how do you become my follower?
You just the same place that you would go to send Lowell Green a friend request, you would follow Lowell Green. You automatically become a follower when you become a friend. Friends don't really have any benefits in this case. Other than, I don't know why they differentiate between.
So they automatically, if they want to befriend me, they automatically become followers?
Yep. That means that you show up in their feed. So when they log on to Facebook, there's a pretty good chance they would see everything that Lowell Green is talking about, your videos, etc. If I'm not your friend, I'm not necessarily privy to that. But now I could be a follower. Now you show up in their feed. So it's basically my way of expanding the number of people that can access you.
Good idea. Who have we got on the phone?
I don't know who's on the phone, but you are on live with Lowell Green. Go ahead, please. Who are you?
Hi, this is Julie. How are you?
Hello, Julie.
Hi. I have a point that you raised where you said like the statement of O'Toole about boycotting the Winter Olympics was not published anywhere. And I find that when he does speak or when a conservative person does speak, we don't hear about it. It's not in the newspapers, it's not on social media, and it's not on TV. So it always feels like he's hiding or whatever, but he's not. He is making these statements. So I agree with you. I think they just don't want to publish it. And I really think that we should be boycotting those Olympics because our Canadians are in danger if they go to China.
And that's his point. And this seems to me to be so blatant. I mean, a call for a boycott of the Olympics is a pretty dramatic statement. The fact, saying that China has become too dangerous for Canadians is a very dramatic statement. And I'm going to tell you that if this were a liberal, even an obscure backbench liberal making these statements, it would be headline news. But because it's O'Toole, head of the opposition party, the story essentially not only gets buried, but today it's just totally forgotten. And this is a blatant example of the bias that exists out there.
Absolutely, and I agree with you, and I'm glad that you have a voice. And that.
What do you think, Julie? You got a good head on your shoulder. What do you think of the idea of a home? Do you own your home?
I own my home. Yep.
Well, how do you feel about don't give me necessary figures, but your home, I would think, has increased in value considerably since you bought it,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
How do you feel about paying tax on the difference of the profit?
I think it's a cash grab. I think it's just more money so he can give to his friends for a scandal, another scandal that he has up his sleeve. I really do. I honestly think it's a cash grab. That's my money, my profit. The housing market is extremely well right now, and if I were to sell my home, I don't want to pay the extra tax on that on what.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Shields. Yeah, I got you, John. Once again, I just want to point out, folks, that while Shields, when if you on the main street of Pakenham, and I've had people say this, geez, just a pretty small place there. And the main, yes, it is, but it's the warehouse. This is where most of the Now, I must tell you that if you walk into Shields on the main street of Pakenham, the giant village of Pakenham, you're going to see a very good display of appliances there, appliances and furniture, but mostly appliances. But in other words, there's a good range that you're going to see. But if you really want to see everything that they've got, just go to shields.ca. There you will see a very, very good website, very easy to use, so easy that even I can use it. And no matter what the appliances that you're concerned about or interested in, just punch it on there. You'll see all of the different things that are available, the different price ranges, colors, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the nice things about Shields is that it's in all 99% sure it'll be in stock, which means they can have it in your home in the next 2 or 3 days. Shields.ca. John, more texts coming in here.
Boy, is the sharing of your video ever making a difference in the responses. Thank you to all who are doing that. Again, the number here, 613-413-2217, keeping our eyes...
I just want to... Sorry to jump in. See, folks, here is where you, ordinary, like yourself, you can make a difference. By sharing this program, I mean, I think that most of you probably share my political views. You feel that the mainstream media is not getting O'Toole's message out. Well, here is a way that you can help that, by sharing. Because I essentially have the conservative message here, one of the few anywhere, and you can help spread that information, and you're doing it. Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry, John, to interrupt.
No problem. Yeah. I don't mind. You interrupt me anytime on your show, okay? Kim says no to the home equity tax. Kim says no more taxes. Carolyn says we have enough of taxes. Home wealth tax needs to be stopped in its tracks. Carbon tax, etc. Stop, she says. Michael John Kearns, thank you for chiming in. On the income tax form, they add a question asking if you sold your principal residence and the value. It did not affect your income tax, but the question was there and you had to respond. Kim says boycott China, period. David says, yes, I would support a boycott 110%. Peter says this morning in the U.S., they were talking about boycotting the next Olympics, and says, I don't know how O'Toole gets heard, beyond my pay grade. I've brought that up to you several times. I follow him now on social media. I still see nothing about Aaron O'Toole on any of my social media channels.
That's a shame because, O'Toole has just made a major announcement concerning a number of issues. And there was a story I saw in one of the newspapers today, but it'll be buried again and in all probability will not even be mentioned on television. There is folks, there's no joking around it. I mean, there's just no getting around it. There is a tremendous bias out there. And you can see why. I mean, and I'll go through this again. CBC, if O'Toole gets in, literally thousands of jobs will be lost at CBC. 7,444 jobs at CBC, and you can be sure that probably be cut in about half. All that will be left to CBC, well, if CBC wants to go the PBS system, that's fine. But in other words, CBC is going to take a hell of a hit if O'Toole gets elected. So you know where the CBC is. $600 million has gone out to newspapers. In fact, as I say, we found out there are millions of dollars have gone to other publishers, etc. And by the way, they won't tell us how much money. So where is there no bias other than maybe Rob Snow, Lowell Green? Where else can you see a lack of bias? Rebel News, they maybe go a little bit too far. That's one of their problems. All right, John, do we have some more texts coming in?
Of course we do. Terry just chimed in to say it's a slush fund. Trudeau paid everyone off. Pretty simple. On Twitch, Long Point Driver says they give O'Toole very little coverage about anything. Chrissy says, have you seen the Ottawa Sun and Ottawa Citizen newspapers now? Not the same paper it sure used to be, full of news. With online news, the newspapers now are behind the times. $3 for an Ottawa Citizen paper these days. It's crazy. Murray says, does anyone really think any mainstream party in Canada will save us from this? And Anne says, is the PC war room not doing their job, or have the Liberals bought off all the media? Some of the comments coming in.
Well, let me just respond to that. I mean, there was O'Toole made a major announcement. He feels that China is too dangerous for Canadians, plenty of evidence of that, and that we should boycott the Olympic Games. This is a major announcement. Well, where is it? Where do you see a story about this? So he's making the announcements, including, as I say in this case, pretty dramatic statements, and it's being so. There's your answer. Is he making the statements or is he being ignored? He's being ignored purposely. But the reason he's being ignored is because the newspaper business will suffer if he gets in, and so will CBC. Dave is on the phone. Go ahead, Dave, please.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, and I was just going to bring up another topic that I don't know if you've talked about it already. Maybe you have, but I haven't heard much in the media about it. But the hypocrisy of Biden telling OPEC to stop producing more oil, or not produce, to produce more oil in order to get
produce
the price
more,
of gas down. He's all for climate change, but then he wants them to produce more so they can have more gas. And meanwhile, he cancels Keystone XL pipeline, which would have brought cheap Canadian oil to the States, roughly $15 a barrel discounted.
Well, Dave, I'm glad you raised this. This is indicative of the environmental movement. We had the same situation here in Canada. They canceled Energy East so that we could buy American and Saudi Arabia oil, which we do today. I mean, almost all of the oil and gas consumed in Quebec and the Maritime provinces is foreign. And so essentially, Biden has done the same thing. He cancels Canadian oil and urges Saudi Arabia to produce more. I mean, the environmental movement, they've gone crackers.
Yeah, and meanwhile, last year when Trump was doing that, they were giving Trump hell for doing that.
It's just,
you can't have it both ways.
Oh, well, they are. I mean, the environmental movement, as they say, they've gone absolutely nuts. And there's a good example. Yeah, we can't have. Go ahead.
I'm getting a good feeling that Trudeau's going to get his sorry ass kicked out. I really do. I didn't feel this way 2 months ago, but I'm starting to. In talking to a few people, I think people are starting to see some of the handwriting on the wall with this guy, and I think. And I find the timing of the election interesting because I think Jody Wilson-Raybould book comes out about 2 weeks after. So he's going to want that election before that book comes out because there's a lot of damning stuff in there.
You know, the only thing is, I think the guy is beyond damage. I think people are just so used to scandals and throwing money around and everything that I think they just said, so what?
I'm starting to see. I think people are starting to see it. I think.
Do you?
O'Toole has, you know where they're seeing it? In their pocketbook. You go buy groceries. I mean, they have gone up tremendously.
How about gas? What are you paying for gas today?
Well, you're talking $1.37 or whatever for gas. I mean, oil's dropped $10 a barrel in the last month, and we're still paying more.
Just keep that old carbon tax coming. I love the carbon tax. This is what Canadian voters are saying. We want a home equity tax. We want more carbon tax. We want higher food costs.
I think he has an opportunity, O'Toole, and I think he's got to resurrect the pipeline. And there's some stuff that he can do that I think is going to wake up a lot of people. They just have to start showing the numbers. What is going to save Canadians?
Dave, I have to move on, but sir, thank you. I hope you're right. I'll give you a big hug if you are. Thanks for the call. Centennial Glass. I give Centennial Glass a big hug as well. I give him a big hug. Anybody that's been in business as long as Centennial Glass, dealt with as many customers and had as few complaints as Centennial Glass, they deserve more than one hug, folks. Being in business today, being in retail, and in the construction bit, it's not easy. I mean, there are bound to be mistakes. There are bound to be problems. It's just the nature of things. But I'm going to tell you, and I keep pounding this, all the years that I've been talking about Centennial, I don't think I've ever had a single complaint. And if there was a complaint, they dealt with it immediately to the customer's satisfaction. They're good people. They could do great work. They're large. There's no question about it. I mean, they're one of the biggest glass dealers in the city. There's no question about that. Maybe the biggest, but they love to deal with the homeowner. They love installing windows and doors. Their selection of frame mirrors and custom-made glass is just wonderful. Centennial Glass, industrial here in Ottawa and in Renfrew. John, we're almost out of time. We got some more texts coming in here.
We've got a pile of texts and Barry's on the phone. Where do you want to go?
We'll have to ask Barry to phone us tomorrow. Let's just get through the text. We're almost done here.
Barry, we love you. Please call again tomorrow, my man. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go with some of the texts. Murray says the PC party keeps booting out the true ones that were fighting for us. Larry says we also
bullshit. Hey, what are you talking about? Come on. I mean, do you want Trudeau out of there? Do we want a conservative to get elected? Then you got to have people who can be elected. Okay. Go ahead.
Larry says we also need to tag friends who are likely to be swing voters when we share. Facebook algorithms tend only to share viewpoints that your friends most commonly are exposed to, i.e. liberal. Good point, Larry. Peter says too many liberals working in the PC war room, no bare-knuckle conservatives working in it, need to get in the mud, and no prisoner approach to the liberals. They do it to Canadians who disagree with them. And Todd Fenton, thank you. We hate to pay taxes because we pay so much already. However, a home equity tax is fair game. I bought my house for $200,000 20 years ago and sold for 1.2. There's a fair amount of that is tax-free income. There are hundreds of wealthy people in this town that are doubling their incomes by working and flipping their principal residences. Let's be honest about this. Is tax-free income okay?
Okay. All right. You have it your way. What's the tax going to be used for? Right. More money for We Charity. Thank you all, folks. And once again, share. This is the way that you can spread the message. The mainstream media won't do it, but you can. You can certainly help, and we appreciate it. Thank you all. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.